Hello. Good morning, everybody. Dan Rod has his golden pickle. Oh, Pickle Morty's trying to get his golden pickle. I see. Yeah, I think if you. Oh, okay. Someone already told you. Never mind. I'll shut up. Thanks, Natty. Thanks for liking the private stream. I appreciate that. I don't think we were too worried about the algo on this one, though, guys. Good morning, everyone. Hello. All right. Let me get about halfway through this coffee, and we'll talk about more serious matters. How's everyone doing? Are you excited that we went up a bunch in after hours? We went all the way up to 150, 250, guys. We're all way too jacked for next week. Don't tell me that's because of the fucking NFT bullshit. I love how everyone's like all up on NFTs right now, and Congress is just gonna destroy Ethereum. I believe you called 150, 250. Sometimes I may be early, but I'm always right. Oh, good organic prison wine, because it sounds like bullshit. What about Ryan's tweet? He's just feeling fabulous yesterday. The more time I spend in Dillionaires, the less I spend on Reddit. That's fair. That reminds me, I still gotta get that DD channel up so you guys can start writing DD or learning to. Have to create some rules though. Otherwise, this is gonna turn into a bunch of noise and nonsense. What should we be drinking when Moas starts? Couldn't find it in your DD. Whatever you want, Captain Ron. Something expensive. So when you're a little buzzed and you're thinking about selling, you can just be like, you know what? I deserve more. Should be standard. We could play the Pigeon Whale intro for the members only stream, as I doubt anybody's going to become a Pigeon Whale during it. Um, I hope that was exciting for you guys. What kind of coffee are you consuming? Espresso. It's always espresso. There's no need to even ask, because it'll always be espresso. Tendies and champagne. Trade spotting hype. You all set for it, Girk? I guess so. It could be, I feel like it's going to be interesting. He's a bit more, than me. Thanks, A. I'm glad that's the thing you can't wait for. What? This is everyone's here, David. They are awesome. Domi Jit right there, who created the Pigeon Whale intro. Maybe I'll make him an honorary Pigeon Whale. Can I do that? What kind of espresso machine do you have? It's a Quick Mill Andrea Miller. I don't really know if Andrew Momeney is an AMC shill. He doesn't really shill anything. He just reads DD off of Reddit for several hours a day. He's a data scientist, so he likes to look at the hard facts and data. What's the trade spotting thing? I've been away more than here for the past couple of weeks. Oh, it's so Wednesday after the stream, gonna do like a interview or a chat session with Jamie from Trade Spotting. I'm just saying, people clip his shit and post it to Reddit. His fans clip his stuff and post it to Reddit. Which is interesting. But then again, his fans aren't pigeon whales. Well, Pickle Morty, we've been calling the pigeon whales for months. They had to show up eventually, right? What's up, Dr. K? Cool, Tambourine. Welcome to your first hot tub stream. Did we find out who the secret mod is? I don't think so. What's the business case for releasing an NFT for JME? If they want to somehow create like a used video game market, like a used digital game market, like G2A, but maybe less predatory. Can you go over one or two of the most common mistakes people start to do TA do? Yeah. They pay way too much attention to indicators. They'll try to get as many indicators packed onto their screen at a time, and most of it's just noise, as the vast majority of them all kind of do the same shit. Um, and they try to force technical indicators where there are none. And that's one even experienced TA guys can fall prey to. Like sometimes, no matter how much you like a stock, you have to admit that it doesn't look good. And that's not always easy. Yeah, stop being nice to people, Pickle Morty. It's weird. You have fans. We're just apostles of VWAP. Well, go forth and spread my word, apostles. Doesn't Mo Money offer personal financial advice for a fee? What? You're fucking shitting me, Danrod. That's a joke. I'm gonna assume that you're joking. I've cracked his thumbnail algorithm. If you use bright colors and a shocked face, your viewership would increase by 200%. Do I want those people, though? Do I want the people that are drawn in by shocked faces and pointing? Where they're like, ridiculous. I didn't say that, David Herrera. I'm just saying I've never seen one of my rants on the front page of Superstonk. And as much as I like Jamie and trade spotting, my rants are better. Thanks. I won't be here then either. Maybe check out the archive version afterwards. For sure, Flaccid. Thanks for stopping by. Yesterday you told us about an option straddle, whereas the price dropped, your calls went up and puts went down. I was doing something and missed the start. Could you go over it again? Straddles are pretty simple. You buy either in or out of the money depending on your risk tolerance. Puts and calls. I don't like getting into multi-leg options because frankly, I don't think any of you have been trading long enough to do them effectively. But straddles are simple enough that it's like, so a straddle is good if you expect a stock to go up or down, right? And so what you do is you buy either slightly, like $1 out of the money, or right in the money calls and puts. So say the stock's trading at 250. So you can buy a 251 C and a 249 put, right? And then based on the price action, this is really good if you don't know what direction news will affect the stock. People play these on earnings a lot because, like, especially if you don't know what the earnings or you don't have any expectation of the earnings, you don't know if the stock's going to go up or down, right? And so you can play both. Sometimes it'll drop and then bounce, and you can really make a good profit. But essentially, this is your loss, is the premium for the call, or the whichever direction it moves is your loss. And then you can make your profits on the opposite side. So if it tanks, you can make your profits off the puts and your loss is the calls. Seems to be a huge learning curve there. People don't close profits. Seems to be a huge learning curve there. That's one you can't really teach though, because everybody's risk tolerance and ability to follow a trend is different, right? And so, some people might be up 50% on, like say your initial risk is like $250 and you're up 50%. Like this is a very good point to take profit, right? Like, you've made more than half of what you've risked. Um, you have like decent gains, right? But some people are greedy and want to go for 100, or and some people aren't greedy enough and jump out at 10% and lose the trend, right? And so like they could have made 60 or 70. Yeah, I mean, you have to. I usually base it on how much my initial investment is, and the type of investment it is. So if I'm buying individual stocks, obviously my time to take profit is like my percentage is lower, right? So if it's a stock, I'll be very happy at 10%. Uh, almost, I want to say like almost a strict 10%. Like I hit 10% gains on a stock buy-in, I'm out. Um, if the trend is really, really strong, I might try to ride it, but I'll have stop losses in place to lock in my 10%, right? Um, on an option, it's a little different because you're assuming that the initial investment is the risks, right? So, like, if I buy a $500 call on Tesla and it moves against me, I already assumed this risk, right? So, I'm willing to wait and play for the bounce because I know the upside. So, like, you guys saw this the other day about like the 720 on Tesla. I think it was like $495. Um, and I just let it expire worthless down to zero. But that's because the chance for a bounce was worth $495, right? Because if it bounced again, the range was significantly above 720, right? And so, like, I expected a move like near 750. And so the amount of profit I had the potential to make was worth the loss of the $500. But that is something that you need to. That's why I recommend paper trading so much and tell you guys to paper trade and don't throw real money at the markets until you're ready, because making those decisions is a big part of what affects your profitability as a trader. What are your top 5 indicators and why? It depends what I'm doing. There's things I use indicators for, there's things I don't. Generally I'll check MACD, I'll check ADX, I'll check um RSI. I'll use RSI on the 1 minute time scale if I'm like actively trading something that's very volatile. I don't usually need to because I can kind of tell by just looking at like the candlesticks what RSI looks like. Um, VWAP always. um, I might have said that twice, and that's because it's on there twice. That's probably about it. When I day trade stocks or like highly volatile assets, I'll usually use Ichimoku Cloud, but you guys don't want to use that. Trust me, it's awful, but I love it. Is there a limit to call put option contracts in a single purchase? No, I mean you're limited by the availability of the contracts, I guess, or anything brokerage side. Also, the added bonus of owning, say, a character you could directly trace back to a famous person. People go wild to play an NBA character or save LeBron owned, for example. Oh, baby. Any thoughts on the LinkedIn stuff? I never read any of that because LinkedIn is like a super tracker. Uh, no. It's probably just people trying to get jobs doing like social media influencing for hedge funds. Those are some after-hour whale teeth. You know it. Yeah, I know. AMC went up also. AMC still gonna just move with GME for a while. It's weird. I don't see the stream list in the community tab on the YouTube page in a browser. Huh. It's definitely posted there. Are you logged in on the browser, Windmill Willie? I tried to recruit someone on Reddit last night when they mentioned they like pickles. They said they would check you out. Awesome. I like the guerrilla marketing tactics. Oh. Clip that. We'll need it for Reddit later. Smox Fox. The way you naturally draw people in is the best way. Oh, by telling them I hate everything that they love and care about. I know. It makes me such a popular guy. I'm here for the pickles, the rants, and Perm Saga V2. Hopefully one day. That's not happening, Natty. There'll be no more perms. Welcome, Dancan. Enjoy your first hot tub stream. Hot. I don't know why I did that. I'm uploading this rant about not having rants posted. You were talking about Ivy. What about Ivy? Gopnik. That's a very open-ended statement. What do you want to know about Ivy? Do you have a particular Ivy-related question? Or just want me to just say the word? I'm gonna have to put you on pause here for a bit. Good stream so far. Could use more green filter. Thanks, man. Sorry, man. I'm in the particular situation. Okay, now I'm really lost. Can't see the epic pen. Son of a bitch. Are you serious? Am I that far behind? Fuck me. Ah. This happens every Saturday, man. Let's learn about iron condors. Let's not. So, what were we doing? We were doing straddles, right? Stock's trading at 250. A straddle, you'd buy like a 251 call, 249 put. And then based on movement, your loss is only the side that doesn't print, right? This only works on a stock when you expect it to move. If the stock trades sideways, you just lose both premiums. So you need to at least expect a move on it. But you guys heard the verbal explanation already. So now you have the visual to tie to that. Looking forward to learning more about beginner's strategy from you, but beyond that, what are some good strategies and resources I can look into? YouTube's a pretty good place. If you're just do you have experience trading otherwise, Tambourine Solo? Because I would stay away from options for a very long time until you really know what you're doing. Options are all about timing and making as much money as feasibly possible off of a predicted move, right? But you have to be very sure of that move. Otherwise, you lose as much as possible. Something for the Houston stream that stood out was that it could take days for orders to fill when liquidation occurs. Man, this question is really, really prominent for some reason. Everyone's asking it to Enrod. I'm not sure why. One second. Um, Essentially, you have an order book, right? And if you put an order in like a high volatility situation, if you put in an order, your order goes to the back of the book, right? And so if there's a lot of orders placed, as there would be in a high volatility situation like that, you're not going to get filled right away, right? Like you're not going to get like an automatic fill. What'll happen is if it halts, your order will be held until it unhalts, and then if it halts again. And so what could happen during that period, I think a lot of people are understanding, is that it can go up. God fucking damn it, Epic Pen, you piece of shit. It can go up, halt, go up again, and halt, and this can happen in like milliseconds. And depending on the spread, right? Maybe only one order fills in between these halts, right? It might be one, it might be 100, but like there's a very good chance that like your order may not fill until several halts later after you place it. And that could take a long time, right? Every halt has, a specific time period that it is halted for. I think it's 5 minutes. Um, and so, yeah, there's a lot of factors there, but it could be a while. Didn't you read the exit, DD? I feel like I go over like high volatility situations in there. That's before all your brokerages crash and you're not able to access them, which happened in January. Sorry, I'm late. What did I miss? You missed me not realizing Epic Pen wasn't working again, but not much else. It was about the IV and calls printing as price dropped off of IV. I just realized I could go back and watch the. Oh, okay. If you want to ask more on that, let me know. I'm still not entirely sure. You just mean like when calls print because of IV and not because of their intrinsic value? Hi, brother. I'm not sure the stream number 11 got listed on the community tab on YouTube. It's definitely there. I checked earlier, Windmill. There's no YouTube listing and no Epic Pen. That's the problem with something that's kind of a problem with this stream is I'm not like up to date on the chat because I'm going through the whole chat, right? And then so when there's problems I don't know about it, but it's definitely listed in the community tab. Oh, it's not. What the fuck? Where did it go? It was there. Okay. A pain in the ass. All right, it's there now. Posted it yesterday. How's it on the Discord then? That's what I don't get. Because I linked the community tab post to the Discord and that's there. YouTube deleted or something? MOAS hits next week, but if it doesn't, what changes or additions do you see for the channel in the future? More guest collaborative efforts? Yeah, I'm gonna try to do more guests just because I think it's like an unfair advantage that the AMC community really takes advantage of. And I think that, GME should also try to create that same kind of community feel and spotlight. Like, there's no reason that all the game, like, there aren't very many of us, but the GameStop YouTubers shouldn't be collaborating and talking. And even if I don't like some of them, I think it's still better to have that sense of community between the channels. And I think that's something the AMC YouTubers have really fostered very well. As like Trey and Matt and Mo Money all have each other on speed dial and like hang out in their free time and boof bananas together. And and like my point is that GameStop streamers aren't doing that. And I think that has a lot to do with like kind of the hostility that comes from like Reddit in against YouTubers. And I really think that might affect things as well. You think Spurt take off soon based on the chart? I mean, it's still in the cup and handle, Viper. I think there's a pretty good chance that we see some action on it this coming week. If I don't see what I want to see this week, I'll either get out or roll. But it looks like we've started beginning, like the beginning of the uptrend back to that test. This could chop a little longer though, right? So like we could have another down day, and then an up day, and then like a down day, and then test, right? So it could be a while. If we hit like next Friday and I don't see the movement I want to see, I'll probably roll the calls to a further strike, as long as we're still following along that same ascending triangle formation. Um, if it falls off, I'll get out. I mean, if my calls are in the money right now, so if it falls below 7 or 650 ish, I'll probably get out. I guess like 650 or 650. Yeah, 650. Can you talk in general about zero DTE trading strategy? Seems you do it in the stream. I was curious if you use 0 to 1 DTE a lot or just do it for fun on stream. I do it for fun on stream. Don't get me wrong, you can make a lot of money doing it, but you can also just lose everything you put in. It's like something fun to watch and do, especially when things are boring, and um, sometimes it pays off. Like Thursday, I had those GME calls that went in the money. That was good. And then I blew the profits on 0 DTEs that didn't. But then I rolled half of that into options for next week that I wanted anyway. So it's you shouldn't do it. There are strategies that employ 1 and 0 DTE options, but they're all very risky, and you have to be really confident in the move to waste the money. Also, you have to watch max pain because you don't want to be working against the market makers on 0 DTE options. Did you get a perm after this is all over? No. Okay, that's the second time I've heard that Southern Monkey. I'm not sure. It should be on the community tab now. I reposted it again. Picking stocks to trade, do you focus on a certain sector of stocks or do you trade any stock that looks good? There's sectors I stay away from. I stay away from like shipping, mining, um, natural resource exploration. I don't like banking because it generally moves too slow. Are you watching HYG at all? Is that the junk bonds? Not really. It could. I mean, it would be just affected by a market crash. And it probably has worse liquidity than like puts on the SPY. To explain, it was something about, it was a story from your past. Oh, um, was that like when the pandemic hit? Rip my 212 hopes and dreams. I couldn't find it either through YouTube. Just found it through Discord announcements. All right, well, it should be fixed now. It, as always, if you guys do miss the stream, I always post the VOD immediately after. Also, I'm just not sure why it wasn't showing up in the community tab. It wasn't showing up for me either. Windmill Willie, you should write a DD about how to play the stream in the background on iOS for all the people that can't. How will I even know when my order is filled? Oh, they tell you. If you place a phone order, it's like full service. They tell you how many shares you sold at exactly what price. The problem is going to be is everyone's going to try to keep all the brokers on the phone for the whole thing. They're going to be like, okay, exit 10% now. Yeah, with this, and the brokers are going to want to hang up on them because they'll have hundreds of investors on hold. It should be interesting. It'll be a fun experience. The masked investor makes me cringe so hard. I don't know who the fuck that is. That's stupid. Do you think Robinhood restricted buying 30 stocks in January when only a handful of them appear to have had squeezes? I mean, you can read Robinhood's reasons for why they did that in regards to like Apex. But the DTCC came out and said basically that they were lying. They were saying that the clearinghouse was saying they didn't have enough liquidity to continue taking orders on those stocks. Is that true? Probably not. GME streamers have actual work to do. It's kind of true. Any new pickles picks? Not today. Maybe tomorrow. There's some things I'm looking at, but nothing's looked super good right now. The market's really choppy, and there's times where, there's no money to be made. Or if there is, it comes from unexpected places, right? Something you guys are all going to have to learn if you really want to learn trading is that there are times like the last couple weeks where you can make a shitload of money, and there are times where it's too risky to even try. But I'm looking. I have my eyes on a few things. I'll put them in the Dillionaires Discord as I find them. Did people not kill it this week on the I think every pick I made this week and last week has been fucking super good. Also, Latch. Who killed it on Latch? I don't even think Latch is done. Is it? I need to look because I think I'm already out. But yeah, Latch just amazing. So this heavily shorted stock, by the way, as you can see. Huge short position on that. When it hits about, ooh, if it gets like to 15, Wall Street Bets will jump on it though. So be warned of that. I'm not big on bio that's not established. I'll play bio stocks that are. Um, Unestablished like bio penny stocks or bio hopefuls that are in testing. Those are terrible fucking investments. They lock up your money and turn you into a bag holder for months on end. I know guys who only play them, and that's all. That's all that happens to them. And then eventually they hit on one, and ideally the profits are more than the capital they deployed into like 12 different stocks that did nothing. You have to buy them at their low and then wait forever, and then you have to sell on the one day that they spike. Do you know if the movie Margin Call is any good? It's absolute shit, Richie. Don't even bother. Are straddles like risk mitigation when there aren't many good looking plays to make? No, straddles are when you don't understand, when you're unsure of the direction something is going to move. Right? It's like GameStop, right? Like news comes out on GameStop and generally it's shorted, right? But if the news is just good enough, it could make it run, right? And we have gotten good news on GameStop that's made it run up. And so like in a situation moving into news like that, you could purchase a straddle not knowing which direction it will go, right? Because if the news is so good that the shorts can't force it down, it has run in the past on good news. I know we're used to it being just shorted on every positive statement, but most of those are not good news. They're just positive statements, and so they short it to make it look bad. Yeah, absolutely, Steven. The broker calls will force more diamond hands up. When you buy options, there's going to be a lot of people locked in, I think, when MOAS starts on the way up. They're not going to be able to sell as early as they planned, which is beneficial for those of us that plan to hold, right? When you buy options, do you always buy multiple contracts? Generally, yeah. I generally buy like two or increments of two or greater, and then I will taper out my position, which I guess you guys saw me do on AMD and Tesla. You guys didn't see me do it on Home Depot because that was in my other account. You've seen me do it before though. I think Spurt I tapered out, but generally, yeah, I'll buy multiple contracts. Would you call the market frothy? I'd call it flat. Yeah, I mean, it had a bullish divergence about 2 weeks ago, went to Kurt, and it's just been, or a bearish divergence, and it's just been doing fuck all since. It's trading way. If we go look at our our long-term trend on the SPY, like we're way below where we should be, right? Like at least through this period, we were kind of following the trend. But ever since that bearish divergence back here, we've just been flat. That's not good. The market should not be flat. That's one of the reasons I'm like not doing a lot right now. Because if the market tanks and I'm in on something, I'm going to lose everything that I'm in for on that play, right? Do you know if Fidelity allows you to play two different sell orders on the same stock concurrently or only one at a time? I think you can place two at the same time. I've never done it, but I think you can do it. You can have like limit sells for parts of your position at different. Maybe like Trade Armor allows you to do that. I had to get out of Latch. Yeah, so those swings were kind of like long-term plays. I'm sorry you missed out on the upside of that. So no Fidelity allows you to play this. Okay. Your AMD opinion last week killed it for me. You have my thanks. Awesome, A. I'm glad to hear that, man. I made a lot of money on AMD last week, so I'm pretty happy with how that played out. Spend a few moments to discuss the option gamma ramp on GME stock. What has the history been for the last 4 weeks? Has whoever has been creating it lowered the entry price over time? They have. Yeah, there was originally at 180 they were doing it. And as they've dropped the price, they're following, right? So as the shorts bring the price down, the longs are buying lower and lower strikes, right? Like so these get cheaper because they are being moved out of the money. And so they keep buying them lower and lower. Most of this comes in on Thursday and Friday. But there are several key positions that they've bought further out, right? So like 200, they're like open interest at 200 is pretty far out, like into October. 180 also, and now they're starting to buy some 170s further out, but all the like 160s, 155s, and 15250s this week were weeklies. But that's always going to be like that. Like they'll buy the higher strikes further out because they're cheaper, right? Because they're further out of the money. What's Jimmy's best case for the next week besides MOAS? Sorry if you already answered that today, but I just got in now. So if we are in fact repeating previous price action, Chrome? Where's Chrome? What is it? Now Chrome isn't working? There we go. So if we are in fact repeating previous price action, we can probably copy this. And so if this was our dip, and that's the dip we're repeating, our price action could look something like this. It's kind of above my head. Hold on. Let me move it over here so you guys can see it. That's on the 4. This is on the 4 hour right now. This isn't the 5 hour. But we did bounce directly off of that like low trend, which is cool. Because this was like kind of like a theoretical support trend, as the only action that occurred on it was back here when and this is why I drew it, because I was curious, like, if they were trying to slam us down the same way that they had in March. Um, and it played out almost perfectly. How much difference do you think a new cat system being implemented next month will make? I'm unfamiliar with the I'm not too familiar with that. What's cat? Is that like the dark pool routing thing? I know this is something Reddit's all over Johnny A, but I don't really pay attention to too much that gets said over there. Mostly because of time. Otherwise, I'd probably read more, but just expand on that. I'm sure I know what you're talking about. I'm just unfamiliar with the abbreviation. Government asking banks required to increase their capital by 1 trillion. Bullish? No, it just means that they did shitty on the liquidity tests, because they've been pumping too much money into RRP and not holding enough liquid capital on hand, as they're trying to convert liquid assets into like credit and debt into something more stable. Do you think now is a good time to buy puts on the SPY? You can never say there's a good time to buy puts on the SPY. Um, you kind of just, you hope you have them when the time comes. You say X holders have nothing to lose. Would fractional shareholders be better or the same in their diamond hands? I'd imagine the same. Um, yeah. I don't know how many fractional shareholders there are at this point, but I'm sure there's a few. Fractional shares, weird. I'd avoid them if possible. Your order execution can suffer greatly by having fractional shares. How long do you think they can prop up the market? How much control can JPOW exercise over it? Quite a lot. I mean, the market's basically been propped up since coronavirus, right? They just keep injecting liquidity into it, and so it's just gonna run, right? That's kind of the issue, is like there will be a break point at which they no longer prop it up, right? But like, who the fuck is to say when that's gonna happen? Especially with coronavirus, like restarting again, essentially. We may see another massive correction like back in March of 2020, as values pulled out. But I mean, all the same things would just have to go into effect again: unemployment, eviction moratoriums, more federal funding, more money printing to float us through, the next possible series of lockdowns, which would just cause it to run again, right? So Are mining companies a good play long term? No, stay the fuck away from all mining. All mining and all shipping. They're just criminal organizations that bilk their shareholders for capital. And that's it. They release shares to get capital from their shareholders, and then they spend it, and they don't do anything to advance the price of their stock. Anytime that you make money off one of those companies, it's generally just stealing money from other people who've also FOMO'd into it. Mining companies a good stock for long term. Oh, yeah. I'll look at NCM for you if you want me to, but I can't emphasize enough how much I dislike mining companies as plays. I don't. What market is this on? This looks atrocious and looks terrible. Angel Fire. They have a better crust mining. Canada or Australia? And they've got like less than a year of trading history. Yeah, I'd just stay the fuck away from it. If if you want to play, do you know what they mine? Kirk, you're the stock whisperer. I don't know about that. CZR daily. It bounced on the 200 EMA. Corsair? Is that what CZR is? No, Caesars? 200 moving average bounce. This actually looks solid. I don't like the volume in this stock. But I like the bounce. Yeah, it's got some decent range too. I mean, $4 before you hit like resistance at 95, $5. Um and then not too much resistance up to like 100. I might write something about that. Nice pull. Long dancing. That doesn't look bad. I don't know how fast. It doesn't look like it moves super fast. I'd imagine it's kind of heavily short. There is one thing that I would consider with this though, and that's that there's definitely a risk with coronavirus. I'd imagine coronavirus fears are what sparked this dip in the first place. If any bad news about coronavirus comes out, this could tank hard and move. It can move really hard against you. Um, Especially if Vegas announces like a lockdown or California does, as that's most of their weekly business. So I would say that's the risk, but the bounce looks good. Hey, Gert, can you go over different indicators that may help time the top? Has much changed on your exit DD other than it made MOAS faster due to liquidity? No, nothing's changed on the DD except that it could run up faster. The indicators you can use, I've talked about this before. You can use RSI on the 1 minute. I wouldn't try to time the peak. That's a recipe for disaster. Definitely like spread your exits out. The reason you don't want to time the peak is right. So like if you move into a if you're moving into a wedge, right? And you start to get those dojis and you try to sell there, right? So you say you sell 10%, right? And then it comes down and it forms the pennant, right? And then it breaks to the upside. You haven't really timed anything, right? And the way that I structured the exit DD is like if you set your, and I understand not all of you have access to this, and for those of you that don't, it's unfortunate. But if you have a stop limit, right, and a sell here, you'll never actually sell any shares. So all of your position will ride up to the higher peak, right? This is why you don't try to time the peak, right? This is why you have a little bit more of a conservative exit, because this order will never fill. Whereas if you try to time the peak, this will, and you've lost 10% of your shares at what could possibly be the low end of a lot more range, right? Longs can build up gamma ramps quickly if good news were to happen early in the week. Yeah, they can deploy capital very, very fast. We saw that happen on the S&P 400 move that day that we were at like 151 and we just rocketed up in the last few minutes. They bought 160s like crazy. They threw like $3 or $4 million at 160s over the course of like 2 ticks. So they're ready. They're waiting, right? As soon as that volatility, I'm sure they have an algorithm in place that's ready to fill that ramp as the price comes up. But they need enough of it there to scare the shorts down, right? So if they don't have enough of a ramp built up, the shorts won't be afraid enough to continue to push the price down. They've deployed a lot more capital to drop the price down this time because they're not shorting traditionally. They're shorting vis-a-vis the option chain, which requires premium cost. Instead of just shorting the shares, they have to pay a premium to short those shares, which is way more expensive than if they were just, borrowing synthetics like they were before at, basically no interest. My wife wants to know what VWAP is. Tell her to look it up. Consolidated audit trail? Oh, I mean, there's already several audit trail mechanisms. I don't know if it'll affect things that much. Cheddar. I mean, ultimately, in order to enforce anything or file criminal charges, they'll have to do a manual audit anyway. So, like, while the consolidated audit trail may help eliminate some of the dark pool fuckery that's occurring, it's probably not going to eliminate all of it. Yeah, absolutely, Angel Fire. I hope that helped. I don't mean to bash the pick. It's just that, like, I really, really can't emphasize enough how much I hate mining companies. How quickly do you think you can drink a bottle of wine? Pretty fast. If I put my mind to it. Any thoughts on AMC earnings this week? I mean, they're not going to be good, but that doesn't mean that the people holding the stock are going to sell it. Is HD still a play? Had a 330C, got out at 335 last week. Wonder if it's worth getting back in. Um, so I still have two 335s that didn't fill. Like they didn't sell. I had them set up on Fidelity to limit sell, and they didn't. All the rest of my contracts filled, but those two didn't. So I'm still holding two. Um, their earnings is this week, I believe, or next week. So not this coming week, but the following week, the week of the 20th. IV will probably pick up into the 20th, so I still think it's a play. But I'll be watching it. I'll post an update on it tomorrow over on the Discord as I go through like my weekly picks and things I'm looking at. But if you had a 330 and you got out at 335, you absolutely killed it. Like that's a great play, right? It's $500 a contract on contracts that I think at the time cost like $300. So I've told my dad to get out. Yeah, but then they'll rip and your dad'll hate you. It's just, you can't win on this. I've tried. When you day traded for a living, did you have any daily habits that improved your trading performance? I didn't eat. Don't don't eat in the mornings. It slows you down. Breakfast is a silly meal. I would say that was a big one. Other than that, just tons of caffeine. Try to get good sleep. It helps, but not always possible. What do you think Tesla's doing next week? I'm not sure. Tesla's lower than it should be, but it's also overvalued, right? So like Tesla's a tricky beast. So I made a shitload. Like if you guys were watching, I made a shitload of money off Tesla last week, and then lost a little going into the end of the week. Um, so it could turn around potentially, right? It could turn around and go all the way back down to its mean. It did have a golden cross here, or death cross, sorry. Um, but it looks like it's going back, right? So like it's completely ignored the death cross and it's moving back to the upside into a golden cross. So it may be that like you want to wait for that golden cross to play out and then look at buying into like some sort of position. This was earnings, right? Like all this action here was just earnings. Um which were good. But the company's still just wildly overvalued, which I know a lot of people who like Tesla don't want to hear, but it is. They've got a lot of like forward looking positive statements, but not a lot of like actual tech or infrastructure to back it up. Paul Rudd should play DFE. Maybe that'd be fun. I like Paul Rudd. Or DFE could just play DFE. It should be a documentary. It shouldn't be a movie. But I mean, Dropping below 700, by the way, on that is not ideal. Because the next like support is like 695. But it's also Tesla, so it could just rip out of nowhere for no fucking reason whatsoever. Like Elon could just tweet something and you'll make money that day. Can you mention good long-term boomer stocks for my dad to invest in? Except GME, we're already in. AT&T is always great. Rail systems do really well. So like fuck are they called? Union Pacific. Things like medical necessities like DaVita, the kidney dialysis company. Like stuff like that. Like look into things that are like that like that provide a necessity for life. Kraft Heinz. It may not go up, but it won't go down. Be careful with casinos. I believe new restrictions for COVID were implemented for Vegas. Interesting. Yeah, they were. Yeah, but the fund was selling because of COVID. Long dancing. So I'm just saying, the bounce, like maybe don't have a lot of faith in the bounce. Oh, also definitely not John the Freeze. What is occurring right now could also just be consolidation. And that's why I was in it. Because I assumed consolidation, like, and I still have some Tesla options at 720. But it could be consolidation and then continue to the upside. Which I forgot to mention. Sorry about that. What's your opinion on SPX 22 now? What's the potential if the market collapses? So it was 100,000 in 2008 because it was it hadn't split. It's split since then, so that's why the shares are cheaper. But the potential's high. It can go up a lot. A good basis. I don't think it's split since the COVID crash. So just take a look at like what it did in the COVID crash. That's not SPX. Why isn't that coming up? There you go. Oh, it has split since then. You mean SPXS? Let's see if I have it on here. Hmm. No more chipmunk, Kirk. Thanks. Your book recommendation would still be worth it post MOAS. Yeah. Not all markets are bull markets. Do we know who these longs are? Would one be considered BlackRock? It's possible that BlackRock's playing the other side of it. Probably people are in direct competition with the shorts, right? Goldman, Virtue, people like that. Could be State Street. Vanguard, BlackRock, all of them would have an interest in GME going up, right? Candles begin to form a pennant like you drew. APX. How many candles typically form before it breaks up or down? 5, 7 on the 1 minute time scale? Totally depends. It could be 3. It could be 6. It depends on the volatility and the price action. So a video outlining a trend between Dow Transportation Index and the SPY, how the transportation dropping has previously been a leading indicator of correction. Any thoughts on this? Transportation has been going down the last 4 months while SPY is still up, so the divergence usually indicates an upcoming correction or a bear market or a crash. I mean, there's a lot of things that are indicating a crash. I'm sure that's one of them. The PE ratio is almost as high as it was at the dot-com bubble, and the second highest it's ever been historically. So higher than it was on Black Tuesday and Black Monday and every other market crash. We currently have a higher PE10 ratio. So I mean, yeah, nothing looks good, right? It's just a question of if they let it crash or not. Like if the Fed's propping up the market, then they're going to continue to prop it up. How does Vail look? They do lithium, have long-term viability for production and order flow. I'm up 11% on shares, but don't know any TA to say if it's luck or they actually have good fundamentals. Oh, you got to dig into that. I can look at the TA and tell you if you're up on luck. It looks good. Like they're seeing growth. A lot of what will affect that is fundamentals. They're also, an ore producer. Um, you'd have to see if they get, contracts are coming in with like EV producers, things like that, for them to really profit off of their lithium. But I think they would be running into the same issue with as other refiners, in that there's not a lot of lithium being pulled out of the ground right now. And so, if their supply dries up, they're going to come down. It looks a bit white coffee. So this could be mostly sentiment without any actual fundamentals backing it. And in which case, it'll come down and then down again as that formation plays out. An indicator for this is that its growth is halted here at the top and it started to trade sideways. So if you're up 11%, this is an excellent time to plan an exit. But as it is mining, it's volatile. It could continue to move up further. It's hard to say. Like it did that here, right? We traded flat and then moved up on probably some sort of news or a fundamental thing. But I mean, if you were in back here, then this was also a good exit, right? So you got to decide, how much faith you have in the company, and that's research you're gonna have to do on your own. What other stock types are in a void during inflation? Tech mostly. Things that don't really have fundamental value are really good to avoid during inflation. Companies that didn't um, beat inflation by deploying, capital and putting their growth into motion pre-inflation. If those people are trying to deploy capital after inflation, they'll be beat out by their competitors that deployed in advance. Generally, not always the case, obviously. Like there's no right answer for that. I'm wondering about a firm. After Square buys Afterpay, story broke. A firm is supposedly the next acquisition. Just stay away from acquisition speculation. Sure, maybe you make a shitload of money, maybe you make nothing or lose a bunch, right? It's just like it's think about GameStop and SLGG, right? Like that, those kind of plays are better left to institutions that have insider trading information, right? Pay attention to it though. You can make money on the move if the actual news is announced. How much money is there to buying and rolling weekly GME by Wednesday until MOAS hits? Not a lot currently. If we continue on our uptrend, maybe. But I've been rolling about $3,000 worth of GME contracts every Wednesday, and the profits are like I think I'm down like 4% over the last several weeks, but we've been on a steady decline, right? So if that inverses, then I'll go back up. I know in June I made a lot of money doing that. But then it's always tricky because like if MOAS triggers, then like if you dump those contracts before it triggers, then it's you're definitely gonna feel shitty about it. Could it be a good straddle? What, Niller? You gotta ask me complete questions, man. I don't stop getting breakfast delivered. I mean, I get breakfast delivered if I'm like didn't eat dinner the night before, generally. Um, yeah, or I'm not trading that day. Do you foresee GME dipping more? Have you done any TA on it yet? No, I think we've bounced. I'm waiting to confirm the trend, but it looks like we bounced on that low support. I haven't done the TA for this coming week yet, but I'll put it out on Reddit tomorrow, and the video here also tomorrow. 2020 stock crisis. I invested heavily in air and cruises. I sold most positions for lots of profit, put the profits into GME. What are the thoughts on Ricey not bankrupting? Rolls Royce is a shit play. Stay away from it. They make money and they make jet engines, but it's like it's never really going to be worth anything, even if it does go up. It's also just like a garbage penny stock. It's just like a garbage penny stock with like a nice brand name, but I think most of their money's in like private acquisition corporations anyway. So like the stock doesn't realize a lot of the potential of the underlying company. There's a lot of issues over there. Don't buy anything with 5 tickers. There's a good bit of information for all of you. If it's got 5 letters in its name, stay the fuck away from it. Tesla, Texas, and Berlin compete this year. They're overvalued, just a car company, but that's not the end game for Tesla. It could be. There's bigger players, bigger amounts of capital on hand. Uh, that can seriously fuck them. I mean, do you guys know how much cash Toyota has? Just sitting in the bank? Like making big batteries isn't gonna save Tesla. And it doesn't mean that they're not overvalued. So a good day. I had yard work to do. What's up, Yeti Yeti? Someday someone else will mow your lawn. That's the dream. What do you think about ECVT? I kind of spoke on that already. I don't like arbitrage plays. I don't know why everyone's so into them all of a sudden. It's super cool if they have like a decent sized short position on them, and the special dividend causes a spike as shorts try to scramble out in order to not pay it. Um, but other than that, I really don't like special dividend plays. They're worse than earnings. Biden signed the EV bill. Wouldn't plays like ChargePoint be something to watch? I mean, yeah, there's a lot of competition in that marketplace though. So you have to you can watch it and assess it, but ultimately only a few will make it through, right? Only a few will actually see growth from that. Are there any financial news outlets that you trust? No. Your experience in direct savings. So I don't trust any of them, but I pay attention to what they all have to say. You have to be able to disseminate that information. It's really important, and figure out if you're, and that's something that comes from experience. It's just you have to be able to read kind of between the lines. You have to think about who is advantaged by that information coming out, especially if it's positive. Who's disadvantaged by it? You have to think about the motivations behind it. So you don't ever take financial news at face value, but it's not worthless to have. Is it like you have to pay attention? Is it financial news that affects institutions? Is it financial news that's going to grab the interests of retail investors? Is there going to be FOMO? Like, there's all kinds of things that you need to think about aside from just the news itself. I'm up 64% on McAfee. How much do you think it will go up due to the special divvy? Um, I think we talked about this the other day. I don't think it has that much more room. I think it might have peaked, or it looked like it got priced in late. I'm still very interested in where the information came from on that, because it does appear that the Wall Street Bets posts were available before the news from the actual company, which is interesting, right? But I mean, it's seen over $6 worth of growth for what? Is it like a $4 dividend? 450 dividend. So I mean, it looks like the dividend's priced in. Now the question is, are the shorts going to bail? And how many shorts are there? I mean, McAfee just died. Maybe there's a decent short position on the stock. Although he wasn't involved with the company, that doesn't mean that the sentiment doesn't still connect him, right? Can you give Arya a shout out? What's up, Arya? Hello. So there's room to run. I got out and rebought. Just jumped in. Any thoughts on how this descending channel run from June crash looks like the channel run from the March crash? Yeah, they look exactly the same. Why? Share offerings. Fucking share offerings. Can you tell us how much cash Toyota has in the bank? It's actually hard to tell because they have different some of it's in like a lot of their cash is in Japan, but they also have cash here. I mean, they've been selling cars at a profit without a lot of infrastructure improvements for,
50 years. So, and they're not the only one. You have companies like Ford, GM. All of these companies are rich and don't like Tesla, right? And they have ties into Toyota specifically has blocked lithium access all over the place. They've been buying up private mining companies. Um, so if they unroll an EV program, there's a good chance that they could be ahead of Tesla, right? They already have factories everywhere, so it's not like it's a big deal for them. And like Tesla only has a few. But yeah, you can look up their statements, Austinadian. Let's look at the engines when I bought that. GE paid nicely, average down, break even. So thought about jumping, but I don't have time since I was at break even. Oh, yeah, I don't like Rolls Royce. It's been a penny stock play on Reddit forever. I just don't think it's very good. Yeah, there's a lot of earnings coming out this week. There's always earnings every week. um, I know AMC. You could try. How much time do you spend preparing for the next trading day? Usually, I would wake up at 5 and be done with my prep by market open. And then the weekends, maybe, I don't know, like 4 hours over the course of the weekend to look at new things and, what I was looking for in the markets for that coming week. Honestly, a lot of day trading is taking the big money you make and putting that aside and then not losing it on stupid little shit because you want to play the markets every day. Most weeks I only would actually trade a stock 2 or 3 times, like 2 or 3 days of trading. Some weeks 1 day, some weeks none, right? You have to the most important thing you can do is learn to stay out of it. Instead of constantly trying to look for places to deploy your capital, wait to find a place where you think it's actually worthwhile to deploy your capital. Patience. It's a lesson you can't teach. And some of you guys who've been Dillionaires for a long time know that I don't have picks every day, right? Sometimes I don't have picks for several days. And that's just because there's nothing that I see that's worth looking at. That doesn't mean nothing in the market's going to move or there isn't something I've overlooked. It just means that nothing came up on my radar that I think is worthwhile. And so I've chosen to just not trade that day. I think Apple price is going to get hurt by the new update. Possible. Or not, because it's fucking Apple. McAfee dividend was announced in March. That's not what the news says. The news says it was announced on the 4th. Well, I said it was announced separately. And sometimes something like that'll happen and it's like buried in, an SEC filing that no one read. Australia's huge in Australia too. Australia is expensive for vehicles that are well established and always be a big player. Yeah. That's just one example, though. You have so many other competing auto manufacturers. like the group that Volkswagen and Porsche are all part of. Pump and dumping, push now, PE. Profit to earnings. I mean, yeah, you can do PE. You can look for things that, Wall Street Bets isn't interested in. Or just don't use Reddit to pick your fucking stocks, because that's generally a bad idea. Or at least be ahead of them, right? Currently, I have my long positions are AMD, Palantir, Fubo, and UWMC. And GME, obviously. GME is the biggest one. That's like my current portfolio. Some of those, not my favorite plays that I own, but. Oh, and for those of you guys that were on McAfee and sent me those screenshots, I appreciate that, because the data people that I'm working with the options thing that I'm beta testing for, they actually had some incorrect options data, and so I was able to present that to them and show them. So I really appreciate you guys sending me that. Obviously, if there was any personal information on there, I would never share that with anybody. They're already, the images are already deleted, but they were off on some of their entry prices for the options chain. I think they said they were going to fix it. Most people will not own cars when driverless fleets are available. Biggest cost component with Uber, taxi, or the drivers. Yeah, it'll be much cheaper. I mean, I think there's a good chance that Uber fails before. If there's another lockdown, series of lockdowns, and like more federal action on Uber having their drivers as independent contractors, then Uber will tank, as will DoorDash. All of the gig economy jobs, those companies will crash if there's federal legislation forcing them to actually employ their employees. If driverless cars become a thing, and in great enough numbers, before then, those companies could survive. But is it possible to make a supporting argument that it'll take a year for MOAS? It's hard to say. I mean, sure, it could. It could take longer. I don't think it will, because I don't think they can float the cost of this for very long. The capital expenditure is really, really high. And it's compounding, right? So it costs more and more every week. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to survive much longer. Even if you take into like assets under management at like the top, like 250 billion, but if you're spending 3, 4, 5, 6 billion week over week to continue to keep the price under control, like that gets unmanageable very, very fast. What's up, Greg M? Thanks, man. Glad to have you here. See, driverless fleets are like it's also really interesting that like whoever has the tech will own the market, right? So like whether it be BlackBerry or Nvidia or whoever comes out with like a truly autonomous vehicle tech, um, everybody is going to try to buy them out. And like Elon's saying like, oh, we're right on the cusp of uh having driverless cars, but like the former employees of Tesla said they're fucking nowhere near it, right? And so it's really just like who's telling the truth at that point. Shame on whoever added the 70th like. Also, driverless cars equal consumption platforms for YouTube, Netflix, so on. Yeah, that's true. Thanks, Osnadian, for keeping the likes at 69. I appreciate that, guys. All right, we got about 20 more minutes. Anybody have any other questions or anything that like you don't feel I touched on enough? Sorry, this one's been kind of more matter of fact, but there's a lot more members nowadays, so I haven't been able to just hang. Yeah, I don't see driverless tech coming in anytime soon, and that's going to hurt Tesla in the long run. But Elon's more concerned with like short-term profitability and just being the richest guy. If IPOs are for bag holders, when's the ideal time to buy shares if you believe in the long-term value of the company? Um, during funding, during private equity funding, which you don't have access to because you're poor. And even if you're not poor, you probably don't have access to it. You have to be pretty rich. And those are the people that dump their shares on retail and the market when the IPO happens. Those are the people, they just take their profits, right? Because they bought shares at $1 a share, and it, like Coinbase, right? And that's one of the ways the rich get richer astronomically faster. Uh, if you're not that rich, a good way to make that kind of capital is being involved with like small businesses or investing in small businesses if you see potential in them. Yeah, absolutely, Angel Fire. I was glad I'm able to help, man. I'm still waiting to see the hot tub. Keep waiting till I'm till Moas is over. Any tips for to deploy tendies post Moas? Do your research. What moon? The reason I say that is because like if I tell you guys, like 1,000 of you degenerates, what I'm buying after Moas, you're just gonna front run me with your also millions of dollars, and I don't want that. And as much as I like you guys, I'm not gonna risk like lifetime wealth for YouTube likes. But there are good companies. There's lots of them, more than enough for everyone to invest in. But yeah, look into them. Do your research. Figure out what you want to be involved in, right? As a long-term investor, a lot of owning a company is what do you like about it? You own a part of that company. It's not just where can I make the most money. It's at that level of wealth. It's where do I want to deploy my capital? What industries do I believe in? What do I think has growth? Where do you have your own personal knowledge of that industry? Honeywell is working on drone taxis. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are working on all kinds of stuff. And then like how much like if we have the kind of battery tech necessary to make electric vehicles possible, how long until people just have like quadricopters, because like why would you deal with traffic and roads, right? because I'm sure that AI would work much better in the air. I mean, once it's on the stock market for a few years, could you buy in then? What was the initial question? Sorry, man, I forgot. Yeah, once the market's like assessed its value properly, not so bad. Obviously, like years down the road, there's still some of them, like obviously some IPOs still have growth potential, but you definitely want to wait for that initial IPO phase that takes about 90 days to die off and for the volatility to calm down. You want to make sure that everyone that was in got out, all the bag holders are nicely in place, and then you want to start to look at it as an investment opportunity. I was hoping to look at a firm without worrying about a buyout or whatever. Their buy now, pay later segment. Those don't historically do well during inflation. So like people tend to not take on a lot of credit during inflation because the interest rates go up. Might have covered some of their position, and Jimmy is being left for last. Is there anything to expand upon there? No, I pretty much covered everything that I wanted to say on it. Domigit or Domigit. One of these days I'll figure out how to pronounce that. Yeah, there's definitely a correlation. I definitely think some of those were covered in the last run up. GME has not been, mostly because of their float size. So their bid ask spread's very narrow. They have a large float. It's easy to cover without driving the price up as much. Smaller caps or smaller free floats generally have a lot more volatility. And so GameStop is very risky to cover, which is one of the reasons they haven't attempted it, right? GameStop, sitting at a quarter of the float of most of those companies. What research used to understand how much of a stock trades for the day were short trades? Shortvolumes.com has the data for free. It's the only one I know of that's free. There's paid resources, but they're very expensive. I think the guy who has that site actually pays for a paid resource and then just posts it. Which, he'll probably get popped for at some point, but for now it's still up. It will be missed the closer we get to the peak. If MOS will be a rapid ascent like now believed, will the consolidation periods... Yeah, the consolidation periods should be open trading, as there should not be too many halts during them. Right, if it plays out like normal market action, we should see it go up, right, very rapidly. And then we should see peaks play out. And then we should see it come down. And then it should fall off a cliff. This part, there's nobody buying, really. So you don't want to be stuck in here with a bunch of shares. All through here, though, from like here to here, this is the best. Like this is the golden zone for selling shares. Is FOMO the only threat to the put options mentioned that shorts are using, or is there other factors that could threaten this method? The cost is the biggest factor that threatens it. It's not sustainable. The shorting only was sustainable because of the rebates for cash deposits. So when they were shorting actual shares, that was sustainable because the holding the position was costing them nothing. And the banks and lenders were more than happy to do it because they were getting collateral in return for what they knew would eventually be shorts that were covered net negative, right? But now using the options chain, this is not a sustainable form of shorting. This is desperation. So everything's becoming a risk now. FOMO, gamma traps, all of it is becoming very, very. It's really piling up. I talked about this in the past, how we moved from periods of low to high likelihood, and we're moving into yet another period of high likelihood. Without the share offering, the last run up should have been MOS. So I'd imagine the next one probably will be. And that'll be determined by how much capital they can deploy at that test of 350. If they can not bankrupt themselves stopping that test, there's a possibility that they could delay it a little bit longer again, but we'll have to see how it plays out. Have you looked into bonds to get passive income? No, I don't really like those. I don't like passive income. I like growth. Passive income's garbage. It's for like middle class people with not a lot of capital to deploy. It's great if you like own a corporation or a part of a corporation and they make a shitload of money and that's how you get your passive income. But yeah, I'd much rather have growth than like piddling amounts of like dividend or percent buy like paybacks every year. It was like having a savings account. It's just ugh. Mercedes near completion of 1 million square foot battery facility near Woodstock, Alabama, and close to their car production plant. Not a play, just another EV player that's got big money. Yeah. Did you look at what's at that setting I sent you in Discord about adding the split option during live stream? I saw it on other YouTuber streams. I didn't know if that was a new setting. I think I saw it, but I didn't have time to look into it. The problem is like the people I've been doing this with don't know what the fuck Discord is, so it's been a bit of an issue. Forex is popular with beginners. Why is that? It's cheap. It's cheap to, and it's volatile. It's fun. It's very easy to like set a strategy and deploy it and make profits on that strategy. It's a simpler market. I don't like it. I don't think the risk reward ratio is that good in Forex, but I mean, people make a shitload of money there. You can make a shitload of money in futures. You can make a shitload of money in crypto. It's always easy to take money and turn it into more money. It's just hard to keep that money. I've never used Schwab for trading. It's just like Dominic with a hard G. Domigit. Okay. Thanks, man. Are you Dan Powell? Are your messages being retracted, or is YouTube blocking what you're saying? It's a legitimate estimate. Smock socks. The short percentage could be anywhere from about 300% to 1,270 ish. All the estimates I've seen, are within that range. So I would say that the low end is probably around 250. The high end, even my own calculations were in excess of like 700% short. So, you know, but obviously the main thing missing from that is no one actually has the data, so no one knows. They're all just estimates. It's good that all the estimates fall in ranges above 100%. We wear a shirt that says "Front Run Me, baby." I would. Can you take a look at UVXY and SPXS on the monthly? I don't know. TA doesn't work on either one of them. But I was intrigued. MACD is peculiar. Also, is UVXY's massive volume since January 2 trillion concerning to you? No, it's just people making money off of what they expect to be a volatile market. We've seen spikes in the VIX a few times over the last couple of weeks. People love making money there, but it's really risky. I mean, there's not much more to say about it than that. If you're moving into a volatile market, the VIX is a great place to make money. If you're really super, super on top of your positions, but as fast as it gains ground, it can lose it. So it's, but yeah, you can't use TA there. It's basically just buy low, sell high, ideally, and hopefully, you know, you can make money on that. It is like the most casino like part of the market are triple leveraged ETFs and the VIX. Any chance you're still getting a PO box someday? I mean, all the places that have them on Saturday close at like noon and 1 o'clock that are near me, and I'm like, I don't want to get one that's like far away from me. And so if I'm doing this, it kind of prevents me from doing that. Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Ecstasy. Thanks, Action Lime. Marked is here. Please, could you go over what convinced you that the shorts haven't covered? Yes, Liv. I've covered this a lot in the stream in the past, but um, I even think I covered it in the interview with Houston. The shorting hasn't stopped, right? They wouldn't have cut off buying in and prevented margin calls in January if they'd covered, right? And when the stock came back down to 40, that was still, you know, greatly in excess of the position that they'd been building up for 4 years since 2015. There's other short positions in the market that affect GameStop that aren't directly on GameStop, which haven't been covered. You can see it also in the short volume every day, as we have almost actually until the S&P 400 move every single day that GameStop has traded, we've had a net short carryover into the following day. So they've continued to short it and suppress the price to prevent upward action in order to preserve their margin. And if they're preserving their margin, it means they're not covering, right? It's pretty simple. If they had covered that large of a short position, the stock would have gone to a much, much higher price than it did in January. I'm too dense having mental block. If your money is going into growth stocks post MOAS, non-income generating equities, where are you getting daily spending money from them? I mean, obviously, I'm going to keep like liquid capital, right? I'm not going to put 100% of my money back into stocks, H-Tech. Also, I will buy REITs, and REITs generate income, but are not. It's not really a dividend. REITs are a better mechanism for that. That's essentially like owning rental property, but not actually having to take care of it. They also pay out like 90% of their profits. to their shareholders. What would you do if you knew the actual short percentage? Buy more. What are you gonna do if you knew it? I mean, if anybody actually knew it, the fucking shorts would get squeezed so hard it's not even funny. And that's how you know that, like, whenever information comes out about the short position, that it's bullshit. Because if it was real actual information that proved beyond a reasonable doubt the short position on GameStop, every fucking fund in the market would be buying GameStop immediately. It's on everyone's radar. Everyone talks about it all the time. There's nobody in the markets that's not aware of the situation over here, but they're staying on the sidelines because there's no proof. So they can just wait until the shorts buy and then, like, buy in onto the FOMO, right? If they had proof, they would squeeze the fuck out of them. And then, so if you can guarantee that teams upon teams of quants and analysts, all of who have like Ivy League degrees in every field from engineering to physics to biochem, have seen no definitive proof of the short position, then you can assume that anything new that comes out on Reddit is fucking wrong. Because Reddit's not going to find it first, right? They don't even have access to the data first. And like, we love DFE, and like he opened this up to Reddit, but there were people that were in before him and around the same time as him institutionally that also saw the play, like Burry and Cohen, and they didn't get into it because of DFE, right? QRVO. I'll look into it. I bought, my cost average on AMD is really low. It's like 10 something. So I bought AMD a long time ago. I've just had it. I like AMD. I like Lisa Sue. She's a fucking boss. Not heard the $1,000 rule. Not sure what the deal is. Yeah, I've heard some different reports on the Schwab transaction thing, so I don't want to weigh in on that really because I'm not sure. Awesome, Sliv. Glad to help. Reet sounds too much like re, which is Danish. It's REIT. Big 10K. Ask through Street Smart Edge. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'm going to wrap this up. I think I've gotten to all the questions. I will see you guys bright and early Monday morning. Thank you, all of you, for all the support. You guys really are the ones that keep this channel going. So thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend and good day or good afternoon, good night, wherever you are.